Okay, boys and girls. So we're going to do a little lesson today on metric measurement. All right. Um, so this topic was introduced last week, and your focus for metric measurement is being able to make conversions. Okay. In other words, if I know how many kilometers I have, how many meters is that equivalent to? Okay. So that would be a metric conversion. Um, so this chart that you see here, these are basically the things that you need to become familiar with. So let me go back to my screen here. Here we go. Um, so these measurements. So we have three basic units. You have meters, liters, and grams. Meters measure length or distance. Liters measures volume, okay, or capacity. And grams are your base unit for mass. So those three base units are used over and over again. So for example, metric length, if meters is your base unit, you can have hectometers, you can have kilometers, you can have centimeters, millimeters, and they all have that base word meters. That means that you're talking about length. Okay. So if somebody were to say, what would be the best measurement for the width of the door? Would you say 150 centimeters or 150 grams? 150 centimeters because we're talking about length or distance. Grams does not measure length or distance, okay? So these are basically the ones that you need to become familiar with. Now, there's also a different way that you can think about this, and that is using the like the metric chart, which you had a video last week on that. So it was King Henry died unusually drinking chocolate milk. Okay, if you remember that. This stands for kilometers or kilometers or kilograms, or you could have kiloliters. This is your base unit, so meters, grams, liters. This would be centimeters, grams, or liters. And this would be millimeters, milligrams, or milliliters. And so these ones are basically the ones that you're going to be working with. These four things, okay? It is good to become familiar with these other things. This is decimeter, gram, liter. This is deca, and this is hecto, which I think you just leave the H there. Hectometer, hectogram, hectoliter. Okay. So just like our number system, this metric system is based on powers of 10. So if this is our base unit right here, all of these on this side are smaller or fractional parts. Okay. And all the things on this side are larger. Okay. So when we are thinking about making a conversion, let's see, I'm going to end up running out of room here. I'll scoot this down just a touch. All right. If I said we are going to start with, let me rewrite this on this side. All right. We have King Henry died unusually drinking chocolate milk. And I'm going to star those ones that we're going to use the most. These four. Okay. All right. If I said I have 5 kilometers, how many meters is that equal to? Oh, I didn't do that right. Whoops, 5 kilometers equals how many meters? How am I going to go from kilometers to meters? Well, if I'm looking at this chart up here, when I am going to the right, I am going to be using the operation multiplication, okay? When I'm going from kilometers over to meters, okay, this meters is going to be at my base unit, I'm multiplying, okay? Well, how do I know how much to multiply? Well, you could think of it this way. I know that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So if I have 5 kilometers, then what is going to be in that blank? 1 is to 1,000 as 5 is to 5,000, okay? So really all I'm doing is multiplying by 1,000, all right? If you think of it like, I think on the video from last week, it was in a staircase, like stair steps. But really what I'm doing is I am multiplying by, get this green color. I'm starting here at kilometers, and I am multiplying by 10, by 100, by 1,000. Okay? So I am jumping 1, 2, 3 places, or that's like in our number system, that is like times 10 times 100 times 1,000, because each place value is 10 times greater than the one before it. Okay, so I am really hopping 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, or I'm multiplying by 1,000. If I had a decimal at the 5, since 5 is a whole number, but if I had a decimal, it would be right here, correct? Okay, but we don't write 5 decimal point when we want to just represent 5 whole. But if it were there, that's where it would be located. And so if I am jumping 1, 2, 3 spaces or multiplying by 1,000, that decimal point is literally going 1, 2, 3 spaces over, and you would fill in those empty spots with zeros and go back and put in your comma, and that would be 5,000. Okay. I am going to go to the next page and no, I'm not. I'm just going to erase this. Let's do this. I'm erasing all of that. Okay, good. All right. And let's do another example. So let's say I was going from meters. So let's say I had 5.5 or 5 5/10 meters. Okay, and I want to convert that to centimeters. All right, so I can think of it this way. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So 5.5 meters would equal how many centimeters? If 1 is to 100, if this were just 5 whole meters, how many centimeters would that be? 5 whole meters would be how many 100 centimeters? 500, but then I have a half of another one, 550, okay? So how am I getting that? Well, I'm multiplying by 1,000. So I am starting here at my meter spot, and I am going to the right 1, 2 places, or I am multiplying by 10 by 100. And so 5 5/10 or 5.5 meters. Again, if I look at this and say, oh, my decimal point is going to the right 1, 2 places, it's going to go 1, 2, and you would simply just fill that in with a 0. So let me show you over here. So whoopsies. 5.5, and it would go 1, 2, and I would put a 0 right there in that empty spot, and that would give me 550 centimeters. Okay. Now, if we were going the opposite way, if we were going to the left, we would be dividing. So King Henry died unusually drinking chocolate milk. All right, let's say I'm going from, grams, which is my unit, back to kilograms, which is up here. So I'm going this way, which means I'm going to divide. Okay, so let's say I had, excuse me, 3,000 grams. Okay, how many kilograms is that going to be? So you could think about it this way. If you know the relationship between grams and kilograms, I know that there's 1,000 grams in each kilogram, so I could say 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So therefore, 3,000 grams is going to equal how many kilograms, Jameson?
If you look at the board, if you think enough, the divide, like right there, kind of looks like a face.
Oh, it does.
The nose, eyes.
This would be the nose right here?
That'd be the tears, like, and that'd be the hair.
Okay, can you tell me how many kilograms is 3,000 grams?
It'd be...
If 1,000 grams is 1 kilogram, 3,000 grams is going to be 3 kilograms. Okay, so how did I go from 3,000 to 3? I divided by 1,000 this time. Okay, and on this chart, all I'm doing, if I'm going from grams to kilograms, I am dividing by 10, by 100, by 1,000. Or in other words, my decimal point is moving 1, 2, 3 places to the left. Okay, so in the number 3,000, if I had a decimal point, it would be right here. Okay, and it would go 1, 2, 3 places to the left, and therefore I would just have 3 kilograms. Okay, let's do one more. And let's go to centimeters and millimeters down here. So we're going to focus on these two down here. So let's say I have 24 centimeters. How many millimeters is that going to be? Okay, so I'm starting at centimeters and I'm going to convert that to millimeters. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So if I have 24 centimeters, how many millimeters is that going to be? Kaylee? How many? Not 34. If for every centimeter I have 10 millimeters, then I'm multiplying by 10. So if I take 24 and multiply that by 10, if I'm going from centimeters to meters, so I'm going from here's my starting point. I'm going one spot to the right. It's going to be 240. My decimal point would be right there, and it's going to hop one place to the right, and I would just fill that in with a 0. Okay, if I was going the opposite way, I would be dividing by 10. So if I was going this way, from millimeters to centimeters, I'm dividing, or my decimal point's going to scoot to the left one time. So let's say I have 542 millimeters. That's going to be how many centimeters? So 542 millimeters, if I'm going from here back to centimeters, I'm dividing by 10, or my decimal point is simply going from here and it's going back 1 spot. And so that would equal 54 and 2/10 centimeters. Okay. If I was going from millimeters to meters, so I'm going to start, let me get rid of this. All right, I'm going to start from my millimeter spot, which is here. I'm going to go back to meters, which is right here. This is my base unit. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 spots to the left, and this would be 1, 2, 3 spots to the left, and that would equal 542 thousandths of a meter. Okay, that's about a half a meter. If you think about that, 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. Well, if I only have 542 millimeters, that's not even a whole entire meter. Okay, that's going to be about half of a meter, which this is about half of a meter. Okay, so we're going to continue with metric measurement and prime and composite numbers this week. And next week, I think we're going to be starting our fraction unit. So